Hi, my dear students. This is very auspicious hour to learn this lesson in this hour. I am very happy to teach you this lesson today. Today we are going to see Unit 2, Prose, a nice cup of tea. In India, some people like tea, some may like coffee, and there are different kinds of tea: black tea, lemon tea, herbal tea, green tea. So, there are different tea in our India. And here George Orwell, so he is the author of this particular article, he wants to say what is a nice cup of tea. Instant to say a perfect cup of tea. How to prepare a perfect cup of tea is explained by George Orwell. He is going to explain to us in 11 outstanding points. Let us discuss those 11 points. Before going to the lesson, let us discuss the short biography of George Orwell. His full name, Eric Arthur Blair, was better known by his pen name George Orwell. Was an English novelist, essayist, journalist and critic, whose work is marked by clear prose, awareness of social inequity. What do you mean by inequity? Inequity means injustice, opposition to totalitarianism and candid support of democratic socialism. So, he is against dictatorship. Orwell wrote literary criticism, poetry, fiction and polemical journalism. He is best known for the allegorical novella Animal Farm. It was written in 1945, and dystopian novel 1984, and it was written 1949. In 2008, the Times ranked him second on a list of the 50 greatest British writers since 1945. So, what do we come to know from this short biography? We come to know that he is a democratic. Okay. Now, let us discuss the lesson, a nice cup of tea. George Orwell highlights the distinctive features of preparing a nice cup of tea. So, here nice cup of tea refers to perfect cup of tea. So, here George Orwell highlights the distinctive means unique features, unique points of preparing a perfect cup of tea, that is nice cup of tea. Let us discuss point by point. If you look up tea in the first cookery book, you will probably find that it is unmentioned. What do you mean by cookery book? See, usually we have a book how to cook a particular dish. Okay, if you want to see how to cook chicken biryani or mutton biryani, or how to cook potato curry, so we have a book for that, and in that book they will have instruction. So, what he says, when you look up that particular cookery, how to prepare tea, he says you probably find that it is unmentioned. In many of the books, you will not find how to prepare tea. So, that was he regrets about that. In the next point, this is curious. Curious means very interesting. What is interesting? Not only because tea is one of the mainstays of civilization in this country, as in Erie, Australia and New Zealand. Here curious means interesting to know. And what is mainstays? Mainstays means chief support. What is chief support? He says not only because tea is one of the mainstays, he says tea, the people those who use tea are civilized. They belong to civilization, he says. And what are the countries known for tea? Erie means Ireland, Australia and New Zealand. In the next point, the best manner of making it is the subject of violent disputes. What he says, if you want to make a perfect tea, if you want to say the perfect points for making perfect tea, there will be a disputes, he says. What is disputes? Fights. People will come and argue me that your points are not valid. How can a perfect tea be like this? So they may argue, he says. Okay, though the best manner of making it is the subject of violent disputes. If you want to make a perfect tea, there will be disputes, he says. Next point, my own recipe for the perfect cup of tea has no fewer than 11 outstanding points, he says. So what he says, I have 11 points. If you want to make a perfect cup of tea, I have no points less than 11 outstanding points, he says. Two of them, there would be pretty general agreement. So among these 11 outstanding points, two of the points people will say, wow, it is so pretty, and they will all agree to those 2 points. But what he says next, but at least 4 others are controversial, he says. People will agree and say it is pretty good points, but other 4 are very least points, very controversial, very arguable points they will say. So now George Orwell is going to tell us how to make a nice cup of tea in 11 points. So firstly he says, first point, one should use Indian or Ceylonese tea. What do you mean by Ceylonese? Ceylon means Sri Lankan tea. So what he prefers, use only Indian or Ceylonese tea, which means Indian tea or Sri Lankan tea. But what do the people do? They use China tea. So China tea has virtue which are not to be despised nowadays. So what happens? Why do people go for China tea? Because it is economical. That's what we are going to discuss the next point. So China has a virtue. So China tea has virtues. Virtue means valuable points. When you use China tea, there is a quality in it, but it is not up to the mark, which are not to be despised nowadays. What do you mean by despised? Hated. What do you mean by hated? He says nowadays people don't hate China tea. Rather they use this China tea. What are the reason that people use China tea? Here he lists out the reason. It is economical. It is what? The price is very less when you use China tea. Next point, one can drink it without milk. You can drink the tea even without milk, you can drink that particular tea. But what happens? There is not much stimulation. Usually the people drink tea for what? They drink for stimulation. What do you mean by stimulation? It's a kind of a feel that it makes you active. But what George Orwell says, when you drink China tea, there is a value in it, but there is no much stimulation. Though you can drink the tea without milk, you will never find stimulation in it. The next point he says, one does not feel wiser, braver or more optimistic after drinking it. When you drink China tea, you will never feel wiser or braver, courageous. You will not feel so courageous. Usually why do people drink tea? They will be tired, they will be dull, they want to make themselves refreshed. But when you drink China tea, you will never have those feelings. You will never feel you are wiser. You will never feel braver. And more than that, more optimistic. You will never feel so positive after drinking tea. So this is the first point he says among 11 outstanding points. Secondly, tea should be made in small quantities, that is in a teapot. George Orwell says the tea which we prepare should be in small quantities. It should not be in a large quantities, because if we have in a large quantities, the taste of the tea will not be good, he says. If you want to have a perfect tea, very tasty tea, the tea should be made in small quantities in a teapot. Next point, tea out of earth is always tasteless, he says. Tea out of an urn is always tasteless, he says. So, if you make a tea with the urn is a kind of vessel. When you make a tea with this vessel, the taste of the tea is tasteless, he says. While army tea made in a cauldron, taste of grease and whitewash. Suppose if you are making a tea out of cauldron, usually this cauldron is used by the army people, that's why it is called army tea. Okay. So, the army tea which is made in cauldron tastes like a grease. What do you mean by grease? You can feel the smell when you in mechanic shops, if you go there, you can smell this. Okay. And next is whitewash. After building the building, they whitewash the walls, isn't it? So, if you are in that particular place, you can feel the smell of the whitewash. What is trying to say is here, if you make a tea out of cauldron, which is called army tea, the taste of the tea is grease and whitewash. Next point. Teapot should be made out of china or earthenware. So, what is trying to say? If you want to make a tea, use the china or earthenware. What is the earthenware? A pot which is made up of mud. In Tamil we say manpandam. Okay. So, if you want to make a tea, use this earthenware. Next, silver or Britannia ware teapots produce inferior tea and enamel pots are worse. Next point he says, if you are going to use silver or Britannia ware, okay, Britannia ware is otherwise called silver. If you are going to use these teapots to make tea, the taste of the tea is very inferior, the quality is very low, he says. Suppose you are using enamel pots, okay. Suppose you are not using silver or Britannia, if you are using enamel pots, that is a kind of a vessel that becomes very worst. Okay. So, next point, a Bewitter teapot, a rarity nowadays, is not so bad, he says. So, Bewitter teapots. So, what do you mean by Bewitter? In Tamil we say a carium and vellium mixture of chemical is called Bewitter. Suppose you are making a tea with Bewitter teapot, the taste is okay, he says, but what he says, a rarity nowadays, people use very less these days. By using a Bewitter, they make tea nowadays very less. But what is trying to say, if you are making a tea with the Bewitter teapot, the taste is okay, he says. So, what is trying to say in the second point, in the second golden points, use china or earthenware, not urn. If you are going to use urn, it is tasteless. If you are going to use cauldron for army tea, it tastes grease and white. If you are using silver or Britannia, it is inferior tea, and if you are using enamel pots, it is worse. Next, what he says, if you are using Bewitter teapot, it is okay. Okay. So, finally, what he says, if you want to make a nice cup of tea, use china or earthenware. Thirdly, the teapot should be warmed beforehand. What he says, if you are making a tea, the teapot should be in warmed condition before making the tea. In the next point where he says, this is better done by placing it on the hob than by the usual method of swilling it out with the hot water. The second point, what he says, what do you mean by hob? The hot place where the flames are there, where we keep vessels is called hob. When you keep the vessel on the hob, usually the people those make tea, what do? They keep vessel with water on the hob. But what he says, what George Orwell trying to say is that when you keep vessel on the hob, the vessel must be warmed, then only you have to pour water, he says. But the usual method of swilling it out with the hot water. Usually what do the people do? They keep the vessel with the water and they swilling it. First they boil, okay, they make it warm, then they make tea. But what he says, that is wrong. You should not go for this method when you want to make a nice cup of tea. Then what to do? you have to warm the teapot first, then pour the water, he says. That is the third golden points. Fourthly, the fourth golden points among 11 golden points is the tea should be strong. What is the fourth point? When you are making a tea, the tea should be strong, he says. What do you mean by strong? When you drink the tea, you must have a strong stimulation, he says. Next point, for a pot holding a quarter, if you are going to fill it nearly to the brim, 6 heaped teaspoons would be right, he says. What do you mean by brim? Okay, before that, first of all, let us see quarter. What is this quarter? You can see here there is a teacup. So, quarter is a 1/4 of the cup is called a quarter. Suppose a tea, okay, the teapot is holding a quarter pot. If you are going to fill it, if you want to fill that particular teapot, okay, to the brim, what do you mean by brim? Brim means edge of. See here, it is the edge. This is called brim. Okay, so the edge of the teapot. Now it is a glass. Okay, so what I am trying to say is that brim means the edge of the cup. Okay, so what he says, for a pot holding a quarter, suppose a pot is holding 1/4 of the tea. Okay, if you want to make that teapot filled to the brim, to the edge of the teapot, put 6 heaped teaspoons, he says. 6 heaped teaspoons means put 6 heaped teaspoons of tea powder, he says. Okay, in order to make the tea to come up of the teapot, he says. So, for a pot holding a quart, if you are going to fill it nearly to the brim, if you want to make the tea to reach the brim, put 6 heaped teaspoons of tea. Okay, so that would be right, he says. Next point, I maintain that one strong cup of tea is better than 20 weak ones. Suppose usually people, they drink tea. Okay, what is George Orwell trying to say is that 20 weak ones, suppose a tea is made to the brim of the cup, okay, it is not made properly and that is weak ones, that is better than one strong cup of tea, he says. Okay, putting a very less tea powder to make tea, and that we use for 20 weak ones. Okay, I hope you understand what I am trying to say. What he says, see, suppose there are 20 teacups, okay, made of very less tea powder. Okay, he says those teacups are very weak ones. Okay, so in order to have a strong one, put 6 heaped teaspoons in that and have a one strong tea than 20 weak ones, he says. The last point in the fourth, all true tea lovers not only like the tea strong, but like it a little stronger with each year that passes, he says. The true tea lovers, okay, the people, those who really love tea, they love the tea should be stronger. Okay, he says strong but little as stronger, he says. Okay, so which means they want to have a tea very stronger with each year that passes. So every year they drink tea in a strong condition. Okay, so these are the 4 points, okay, golden points. Fifthly, the tea should be put straight into the pot. What he says, the tea here refers to tea powder. The tea should be put straight into the pot, he says. Okay. No strainers, muslin bags or other devices to imprison the tea, he says. Now what? The usual way of preparing the tea, how do in the tea shop they prepare? Okay. So, here muslin bags means a kind of a bag made of cloth, okay, that hangs. Okay. Stainers means you know it. Okay. After making the tea, they will have a stainer to catch all the dust of the tea. Okay. That is called stainer. Muslin bags, you know it. Okay. So, in tea shops they will have a cloth like a long cloth. Okay. So, in that they put tea powders, and on that they put the decoction, okay, the water, the heat water, okay, and through that we get tea. But what he says, the tea should be put straight into the pot. Already we saw that in the pot should be warmed, after that only you have to pour the water, then the water should be boiled, isn't it? So, after boiling it, what he says, put the tea powder straight into the pot. Don't use stainers, don't use muslin bags or other devices to imprison the tea. The other devices which imprison the tea should not be used, he says. Okay. Then what to do? Put the tea straight into the pot which is boiling. Next point, in some countries teapots are fitted with a little tangling baskets under the spout to catch the stray leaves which are supposed to be harmful. What do you mean by tangling basket? Tangling means hanging baskets. Okay, we have like a tea, like a Taj tea. Okay, so you will have a bags, okay, in small bags, little bags, the tea is filled, and in the end there will be a thread will be hanging. What do? We put the milk, sugar, everything, and we take that particular bag, that is tangling baskets, he says. That tea tag is put into the milk and merged into that, and after that we get tea. So, what he says, some countries use these tangling baskets and a spout to catch. What do you mean by spout? Spout means a pipe like a opening in a teapot through which tea is poured out. Okay, the opening of the teapot is called spout. Okay, under the spout to catch the stray leaves which are supposed to be harmful. So, what he says, when some countries use these tangling baskets, okay, in the end of the teapot, we have a stray leaves. What is stray leaves? Stray leaves is lost leaves. The leaves which are underneath the teapots is called stray leaves. What he says, they are very harmful to the health, he says. Okay. So, one can swallow tea leaves in considerable qualities without ill effect, he says. So, what he says, when you put the tea straight into the teapot, don't worry about that. Okay, let it boil. Okay, after that you can drink straight away, he says. That's what one can swallow. Swallow means what? You can eat some considerable qualities that doesn't harm, that doesn't, without ill effect, he said, without harmful effect, says. Then what is harmful? What is harmful is when you put the tea into a basket, okay, like a tangling basket, and you put into the milk and you wait for a long time, and after that you drink it. Okay, so you imprison the tea in tangling baskets. So, such tea is very harmful to the human health, he says. So, when you put straight into the pot, when you put the tea straight into the pot, you can also swallow some tea leaves in considerable qualities which does not harm your health, he says. So, that is the fifth golden points. There is one more point in fifth golden points. If the tea is not loose in the pot, it never infuses properly. Okay. So, when the tea is put straight into the pot, it is loose. Okay. There is no device to imprison the tea. Okay. So, what are the devices we use to imprison the tea? We use strainers, we use muslin bags and other devices to imprison the tea, then we make tea, isn't it? So, what he says, that kind of tea is very harmful to the health. When you put tea straight into the pot, you can also swallow some considerable tea leaves, he says. Okay. So, when you put straight into the pot, the tea is in loose position. So that you will have infuse, what do you mean infuse? You will have stimulation, he says, but it is, if it is in the opposite, if the tea is not loose, if it is imprisoned in muslin bags or other strainers, the tea never infuses properly, the tea never stimulates you to be active in daily life. Okay. So that is the fifth golden points. Next, sixth golden points, that is sixthly, he says, one should take the teapot to the kettle and not the other way about, he says. So, one should take the teapot to the kettle. What in by kettle? It is a electric kettle. Okay. So, it is a vessel, it is an electric vessel through which we make tea. Okay. So, one should take the teapot, that you have to take the teapot to the kettle, he says, not the other way about. What is the other way about? Taking the kettle to the teapot is called other way. So, George Orwell says, don't take the kettle to the teapot, but the other way, take the teapot to the kettle, he says in the sixth golden points. And other points in the sixth, the water should be actually boiling at the moment of impact, he says. Okay, the water should be actually boiling at the moment of impact. When you put the tea straight into the pot, it's boiling in it. And that moment you have that particular impact of the tea that changes into stimulation. Next point, one should keep it on the flame while one pours. Okay, one should keep it on the flame while one pours. So, one should keep it on the flame while one pours. So, when you pour the tea, that should be on the flame, he says. What is flame? Flame means fire. So, the tea should be on the fire when you pour the tea. Seventhly, he says, after making the tea, one should stir it, or better give the pot a good shake afterwards, allowing the leaves to settle, he says. After making the tea is boiled, the tea is ready. After that, take a spoon and stir it. Okay. Or if you are not stirring it, okay, or you are stirring means moving a spoon, okay, in a clockwise or anti-clockwise, whatever may be. Or better give a pot a good shake, he says. Give a good shake to the pot, afterwards allowing the leaves to settle. When you stir it or when you give a good shake, the leaves move around fast, and after that give it time to settle down under the vessel. Okay. Yes. So, this is the seventh. Eighthly, one should drink out of a good breakfast cup, that is the cylindrical type of cup, not the flat, shallow type. So, in eighth point, what he says, how we have to drink a prepared tea. So, till seventh points, we have seen how George Well wants to have a nice cup of tea, and he has given the 7 golden points. So, the tea is ready. Now, how we have to drink, in which cup you have to use, he says. So, one should drink out of a good breakfast cup, he says. The cup should be good one. So, the how should be the cup? That is the cylindrical cup you have to use, he says. Okay, not the flat or shallow type. What do you mean by shallow? Shallow means having a little depth, having a little space, that is called shallow type. So, what he says, when you drink a good breakfast cup, use the cylindrical type of cup, not the flat one, not the shallow type. Next point, the breakfast cup holds more and with the other kind one's tea is always half cold before one has well started on it. So, what it says, when you use the cylindrical cup type, that is the breakfast cup. Okay. So, this breakfast cup has to be the cylindrical cup. Next point he says, when you drink a tea, that should be half cold. It should not be so overheated tea. Okay. So, in the 8th he says, use cylindrical cup, not flat one or shallow type cups. So, this breakfast cup holds more tea. That is why he says use cylindrical cup. Okay. Next point he says, when you start drinking, the tea is almost half cold, so that the tea is better to drink, he says. So, ninthly, the 9th golden point is, one should pour the cream of the milk before using it for tea. So, he says how a milk should be poured into the tea. Before pouring the milk into the tea, the cream should be removed from the milk, he says. Okay, that is, he says, one should pour the cream of the milk. So, you have to remove the cream from milk before using it for tea. So, before pouring the milk into the tea, first you have to remove the cream from the milk, he says. Milk that is too creamy always gives tea a sickly taste, he says. Suppose you are using milk without removing cream from the milk and drinking the tea, the taste of the tea is sickly taste, which is not good, he says. Okay. So, milk that is too creamy always gives tea a sickly taste. So, a milk which has too much of cream in the milk, that gives the taste of sickly taste. Okay. So, that is the 9th point, he says. In the 9th golden point, what he says how a milk should be poured into the tea, he says. 10thly, one should pour tea into the cup first. Okay. One should pour tea into the cup first. This is one of the most controversial points of all, he says. So, the tea is ready. Now, the cream is removed from the milk. Okay. So, both are ready. Milk is ready. Tea is ready here. Okay. So, in the 10th golden point, he says, which should be poured first, milk or tea? Okay. That is what he is going to discuss in the 10th point. One should pour tea into the cup first. Okay. So, according to George Well, one should pour tea first, then only how to pour milk. So, it is the most controversial points of all, he says. What do you mean by controversial? Controversial means arguable. Okay, having a contrast opinions. If what he says, mostly people, how do they make tea? First they will pour milk, then they will pour decoction, which is tea, isn't it? That is the mostly tea prepared. Okay, but what he says in another way. First pour the tea, then you pour milk, he says. That is why he says it is the most controversial points, because whatever the point which is not accepted by most of the people becomes a controversial points, isn't it? Okay. So, next point, indeed, in every family in Britain, there are two schools of thought on the subject. So, in Britain, he says in every family, there are two schools of thought. Okay. The people think in two ways when they prepare tea. One is milk first school, next is tea first school. Okay. What is this milk first school? While preparing tea, first they pour milk first, then they pour the tea. Okay. That is milk first school. What is the second type? Tea first school. First they pour tea, then they pour milk. Okay. So, here what George Orwell says, first pour tea, then you pour milk, he says. But many of the people have a very controversial idea about this point. So, George Orwell says, when you put tea first, then milk, the real taste of tea you can taste, he says. Next point, The milk first school can bring forward some fairly strong arguments. So, in the previous point we saw there are two schools in Britain. One is milk first school, another is tea first school. George Orwell belongs to tea first school. What he says, if you want to have a perfect cup of tea, that is nice cup of tea, you have to pour first tea, then only you have to pour milk, he says. But usually in Britain, the most of the people use the milk first school. First they pour milk, then only they pour tea. That's what he discusses in this point. The milk first school can bring forward some fairly strong arguments. That is, the people, those who belong to milk first school, can bring strong arguments. But whatever you bring strong arguments, I maintain, he says. But I maintain my own argument is unanswerable. So, but I maintain my argument is unanswerable, he says. I stand on my own point. What is the point? Tea first school is first point, he says. But to my argument, nobody is answering to my point, he says. That is unanswerable, he says. Next point. By putting the tea in first and stirring as one pours, one can regulate the amount of milk, whereas one is liable to put into too much milk if one does it the other way round. What he says, when you pour tea first, so that you will know the amount of milk which you have to pour into the tea. But if it is other way, that is, he says other way. What is other way? The milk first school. If you pour milk first and then tea, the quantity or the amount of the milk is more, he says. If the amount of the milk is more, you will never have a taste of tea, he says. By putting the tea in first you put the tea, then stir it as you pour. Okay. One regulate the amount of milk so that you know how much amount of milk you have to pour into the tea, he says. Whereas one is liable to put in too much milk if one does it the other way. If it is people belong to the milk first school, they pour milk first, then tea, which means they are going to pour more amount of milk and they are not going to taste the tea, he says. So, in the 10th point, what he says in the 10th golden points, he discusses two schools, the milk first school and tea first school. He prefers tea first school so that you will have nice cup of tea, he says. Lastly, that is, we have come to the end, the 11th golden points, he says. Let us see. Tea, unless one is drinking it in the Russian style, should be drunk without sugar, he says. If you want to have a nice cup of tea, that is a perfect cup of tea, drink in Russian style, he says. What is Russian style? In Russia, they drink tea without sugar. That is called Russian style. If you want to have a nice cup of tea, drink the tea in Russian style, that is without sugar. Now he is asking a firm question to us. How can you call yourself a true tea lover if you destroy the flavor of your tea by putting sugar in it? How can you call yourself a true tea lover if you add sugar in it, he says. If you are a true lover, if you are a true tea lover, you should not drink the tea with sugar, he says. It would be equally reasonable to put in pepper or salt. Suppose you are drinking a tea with sugar, that is equal to when you drink hot water with the pepper or salt. That is the taste, he says. So, if you are a true tea lover, you should not destroy the real taste of tea, which means you should not add sugar to the tea. If you add, that is equal to pepper or salt. Next point, if you sweeten it, you are no longer tasting tea. You are merely tasting the sugar, he says. Suppose you are sweetening it, suppose you are using tea. Suppose if you are using sugar to taste the tea, that doesn't give you real taste. That means you are tasting only the sugar, not tea, he says. Next point, you could make a very similar drink by dissolving sugar in plain hot water. So, he compares this point to this. If you are adding sugar to your tea, that is similar to dissolving sugar in plain hot water, he says. So, plain hot water, putting sugar in a plain hot water and drinking is equal to putting sugar in tea, he says. Try drinking tea without sugar for a fortnight, and it is very likely that you will ever want to ruin your tea by sweetening it again. So, it is very difficult. A person who drinks always with the sugar, it is very difficult to get rid of that. But he is giving points, he is helping us by giving this point. What is the point? Fortnight means 2 weeks, 14 days. For 14 days, if you do not take sugar, that becomes a habit for you to drink tea without sugar, he says. So, that is why he says, to ruin your tea by sweetening it. To ruin means destroy. What to destroy? To destroy the habit of drinking tea with sugar, he says. So, what is trying to say in this point? For fortnight, for 2 weeks, for 14 days, drink tea without sugar. So, that becomes your habit, and that drinking tea with the sugar habit will ruin the particular habit, and you will taste the tea without sugar, and you will cultivate the habit of drinking a nice cup of tea, he says. So, in the last point, very important point, the 11th golden point, that is drink tea without sugar. That is very important point in the 11th point, he says. So, all these points whatever we have discussed, the 11 points are taken from the collected essays, Journalism and Letters of George Well, volume 3. It was written between 1943 to 45. Okay. So, from this collection only we have extracted all these 11 points to prepare a nice cup of tea. So, that is all about preparing a nice cup of tea by George Orwell. My dear students, I hope you have understood this lesson, A Nice Cup of Tea by George Orwell. He has given all these 11 points to prepare a nice cup of tea. So, I have made you to understand how to prepare and taste a nice cup of tea, especially for breakfast tea. I also urge you to experiment or prepare at your home using all these 11 points to have a nice cup of tea. I hope I will ask you when you come to school your experience of preparing a nice cup of tea using George Orwell's 11 points. Let us see how you prepare your nice cup of tea. Thank you very much, students.